In November 2020, Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump to become the 46th President of the United States. He assumed office the following January. Today, Biden declared that he would be running for a second term.
Freedom, personal freedom, is fundamental to who we are as Americans. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred. That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy. This shouldn't be a red or blue issue. To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those bedrock freedoms, cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes for the very wealthy, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote. When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are. The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead, we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer. I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election. Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people. I know we're still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity. That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot to succeed in this country. Thank you for choosing us. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom. Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this is our moment. We, the people, will not decide. So if you're with me, go to joebiden.com and sign up. Let's finish this job. I know we can, because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
And that was Joe Biden's campaign launch video released today. Now, on the one hand, it shouldn't be surprising Biden is standing again in 2024. After all, he's the incumbent. And only several presidents have failed to even try for a second term in the White House. But on the other hand, given his age, it's a big deal. Joe Biden will be 82 years old in 2024, and he'll be 86 at the end of any prospective second term. It's not ageist to say that's a major variable. This is a job that will be physically challenging for someone in their 30s, let alone a half century later. And if you think that Biden's age is a problem, turns out you're not alone. That's because, according to an NBC poll, 7 in 10 Americans do not want Joe Biden to run. That includes 51% of Democrats, nearly half cited his age. However, in good news for the president, 88% of Democratic respondents said they would definitely or probably vote to re-elect him, with 83% saying they currently approve of his job performance. Of course, the current favorite to land the Republican nomination is former President Donald Trump, who was recently indicted over hush money payments made to a porn star and who is currently embroiled in a civil rape trial. And while he's far from popular with the US electorate, Trump does seem to currently fare better than Joe Biden. 60% of respondents think Trump shouldn't run again. Remember, that figure is 10% higher for Joe Biden. And whereas over half of Democrats think Biden shouldn't stand for re-election, that figure falls to 33% for Republicans who think Trump should step aside. That same survey also found Biden's approval rating had fallen to 41%. As you can see here, Biden's approval is trending down since entering office, which is completely normal. but it's now lower than Donald Trump was at the same point during his presidency. It's important to say that Clinton and Obama were on similar numbers 2 years in. But the experience of those two does indicate that Biden would need to see his numbers edging up over the coming years. It's very much now or never for the Democrats.
Joe Biden versus Donald Trump 2 years ago, you'd have thought, this is the sign of an empire in decline. You've got one person who is way past his best. Joe Biden, when you listen to him sort of in the 1990s, I think actually his politics have got less objectionable over time. He seems to have mellowed out a little bit. But he was a much sharper speaker. And you had him versus Donald Trump, who's obviously the biggest idiot that's ever been in the White House. You thought that this must be, the low point of American empire, and they're going to sort of, to some degree, recover from this, especially after January the 6th, when people thought, oh, this must be Trump over. And now, 4 years later, the best America has to offer is still going to be Joe Biden and Donald Trump, but both of them even older and less coherent than they were in the 2020 election. Is it a mistake? I suppose why the Democrats do seem relatively united behind Joe Biden is because of the midterms. So the midterms, the polling also wasn't looking good for the Democrats. People saying, well, why the hell is he talking about democracy and saving the American Constitution against these extremists in the Republican Party? This is all incredibly abstract. Why isn't he talking about the economy? Why isn't he talking about wages? And then actually the Democrats outperformed the Republicans. Well, they lost the House, of course, but they outperformed expectations. Normally, the party who has the presidential incumbency does quite badly in the midterms. The Democrats didn't. And in those elections, we also saw that the Trumpist candidates did pretty poorly. So the Democrats are thinking, look, the Republicans look like they're going to put forward Donald Trump. What's worked for us before when it came to defeating Trump? Oh, the 2020 election when Biden won, and the 2022 midterm elections when the Democrats led by Joe Biden outperformed expectations and actually did pretty well, especially against those Trumpist Republican candidates. Joe Biden is not encouraging any enthusiasm among anyone, but is he the candidate that puts off the least number of people and therefore can win over the most people who would maybe otherwise go for Trump if they faced a Democratic candidate who it was easier to sort of demonize? Being old and being a little bit, not as articulate as someone once was, that will decrease enthusiasm for a candidate. But I think it's probably less of a block because it doesn't terrify anyone, compared to someone who they think has like completely opposite values to them. So I can see why the Democrats think that Joe Biden is a safe pair of hands, even though it's a real indictment of American democracy that this is the choice and the American people are going to be given.
Michael, I'm so happy you raised all those points. We're about to touch on some of them. You might be watching this and thinking, Aaron, quit it with the scare stories. You're on the left. You want Biden to fail. You want Trump to win. You want a bit of drama. Absolutely not. Biden beat Trump by nearly 7 million votes in 2020 and won the Electoral College by 74 votes. It wasn't even close. Only it was incredibly close, with Biden's victory the result of a narrow set of wins in a handful of states, with just 44,000 votes in Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin separating Biden from Trump when it came to a potential tie in the Electoral College. So you look at several constituencies, we call them in the UK, several states in the United States, 44,000 votes between the two men. So margins matter. After all, Trump won the race to become president in 2016 because of 80,000 votes in a cluster of marginal states, places like Pennsylvania. So it can absolutely happen again. Michael, could we see a repeat of 2016?
We could do. I think you'd be an idiot to sort of rule it out. I suppose what 2020 showed is that Joe Biden is a much better candidate than Hillary Clinton. Even though obviously she's a more coherent speaker, Biden, it's easier to accuse him of cognitive decline than it is Hillary Clinton. But Hillary Clinton ran a campaign where she essentially thought she had the right to be president, and she didn't run on very much at all, and then demonized lots of people. So, she's calling Trump's people the deplorables, she's calling the Bernie people these sort of sexist misogynists. She seemed like a candidate who was very divisive. Obviously, it's not all her fault. It's also partly because there was a right-wing campaign to sort of build her up as the devil incarnate for a very long period of time. But there were a lot of people who really, really hated Hillary Clinton. And so that meant that there were a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump because they were generally keen about that guy. But there were also a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump because they thought Hillary Clinton was devil incarnate. And Joe Biden hasn't succumbed to sort of a similar perspective or a similar sort of, he isn't seen in the same way by the American people as Hillary Clinton was. Maybe there is some misogyny going on there, but I think it is also potentially the arrogance of her campaign, which Joe Biden seems quite capable of avoiding. At the same time, again, Donald Trump is a very different candidate to that which he was in 2016. So in 2016, Donald Trump was talking about things that American people actually really cared about: trade, jobs, and migration. We have to be real here. Lots of people would have voted for him because they're a bit racist and very xenophobic, right? I think one of the reasons why he did poorly in especially the midterms is because what do people associate Donald Trump? Well, obviously he wasn't standing there, but his candidates, why they did poorly in the midterms, is because what defined a Trumpist candidate then was that they thought the 2020 election was stolen. So it was all about Donald Trump. It's very self-referential, let's say. It's all about whether or not Donald Trump was wronged or righted or blah, 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 blah. He's not talking about those issues that people cared about in 2016 and had been ignored by the political establishment. He was just talking about himself. It looks very different to 2016. Does that mean it's impossible for Donald Trump to win? Absolutely not. But I think the election is not going to go the same way that the 2016 did in terms of the issues that are being talked about, the dynamic of the general campaign. So if Donald Trump wins, I think it will be, for different reasons. Let's say it might even be the case that there are different swing states in 2024 as compared to 2016.
Yeah, I think there's two reasons this, right? One is that it's going to be that cluster of states again, sort of ex-Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Kansas. Florida doesn't really imply that's going to go to the Republicans again, almost certainly. But like you say, places like Texas are gradually becoming more and more marginal over time, and the Democrats might spring a surprise there, just like they did in Georgia in 2020. Michael, I'm going to have to pin you down here, though. You're very evasive. I mean, looking at that data with regards to approval ratings, where Biden is, and we know that because of the composition of the Electoral College, the Democrats have to win the popular vote by 3 or 4% to actually win. I don't think the fact that Biden will win the popular vote is in any doubt whatsoever. Famous last words, but I think the last time a Republican won the popular vote was in 2004, George W. Bush versus John Kerry. They don't win the popular vote, but they don't need to win the popular vote. Michael, yes or no?
I would say Biden will beat Donald Trump in 2024. That's my bet.